I am Mel, and this is Create and Company, a community where we create with more joy, with more flow, with more confidence, and with more consistency. So today we're going to continue doing this online forever book club on the book, The Creative Act. Yes, you're seeing double. The Creative Act, A Way of Being. I got that one as a birthday gift for a friend who was salivating over mine when they saw it recently. Yes, that's how good this book is. Even before you read it, if you know who this guy is and if you're into creativity, this will call you in. Okay, so today we start on page 93 with a very beautifully titled mini chapter called Intention. Yesterday we left off on collaboration. Now, intention, I would say this was one of the more complex or profound mini chapters so far for me in my experience. And it said that he starts with this parable about a guy in Calcutta that is getting water out of a well. And he takes the water in a bucket, like he takes the empty bucket and he lowers it down into the well, and then he pulls it up carefully. And a guy sees them and suggests, hey, why don't you use a pulley system? That could be way more efficient. That could be faster. It could give you more time to do other stuff and to get your water. And this guy looks at him with a blank face and says, no, I don't want to do that, because if I did that, I would probably not pay as much attention to how I'm lowering and collecting up the water. And so how would the water feel? How would the water be affected? The water probably wouldn't taste as good. It wouldn't be as healthy. And so that's a beautiful commentary on the power of process, the power of process, the power of connecting with consciousness to what you are doing. And in many ways, the slow life, which we all know the story of the turtle and the hare. I don't know why they called him a hare. He was a rabbit. In my book, he was a rabbit. Anyway, the turtle slowly and surely got there. And I think that with a lot of us creatives that have struggled with procrastination and self-doubt, often we see other people seemingly getting to goals so much quicker. And yet I think with a connected, rooted intention, even if we arrive slower, there's a lot more depth, like the well, like the bucket down the well. He says, remove intention and all that's left is the ornamental shell. No depth, as we were saying. Okay, red sticky alert. You got a red sticky on the horizon. He says, though an artist may have a number of goals and motivations, there is only one intention. This is the grand gesture of the work. It is not an exercise of thought, a goal to be set, or a means of commodification. It is a truth that lives inside of you. It is a truth that lives inside of you. Through your living it, that truth becomes embedded in the work. Embedded, imbued, soaked. It lives in the work. If the work doesn't represent who you are and what you're living, how can it hold an energetic charge? Woo, red sticky was very merited, right? That was so cool. Because there's an energy behind everything you do. I once had a coach, one of my first coaches, shout out to Julie, and she talked about how the energy you put into something will be felt by those who receive whatever you cook for them or whatever video, like right now, the intention behind making these videos, whatever you write, whatever you paint, intention. And that's something I teach my creative accountability clients a lot. My creative clients, we talk about what intention am I going to put into this work of art? And not just the intention for what you want your audience to get out of it. What do you want to feel when you're creating this? What do you want to know, believe? So go into more depth with planting your intentions like seeds. An intention is more than a conscious purpose. It's the congruence of that purpose. Okay, Rick, let's go deeper here. It requires an alignment of all aspects of oneself, of conscious thought and unconscious beliefs, of capabilities and commitment, of actions when working and not. It's a state of living in harmonic agreement with oneself. And that last sentence got another red sticky. Okay. Our work embodies a higher purpose. Whether we know it or not, we're a conduit for the universe. Material is allowed through us. If we are a clear channel, our intention reflects the intentions of the cosmos. That got an orange sticky. It was pretty grand, but whoa. The intention of your art will reflect the intention of the cosmos. That's way bigger than us. They also say the cosmos are within us, so it's all relative. When people say that something is small and they're like talking about a nanometer, I'm like, well, it's all relative, because to some being or to some atom, that's not small. And the distance from here to like the other planets, that's not long for like some other planets or galaxies. Anyway, everything's relative. Okay, here we go. So he says something really beautiful towards the end. He has a metaphor about bees. And my name happens to mean honeybee. Shout out for all of those Melisses in the world who know that your name means honeybee. And he says that a honeybee, should it go extinct, which it won't, because we love honeybees and we're going to plant the flowers for them and we're going to eat organic and we're going to keep planting lots of beautiful things, right? We're going to protect nature, but let's say it goes extinct. He says not just the flowers, but the birds, the small mammals, the humans, everything would also go extinct. So, and he says it's fair to assume that the bee doesn't know its role in this interconnected puzzle and that it is preserving the balance of nature. The bee is simply being, boom. That was a cute, possibly accidental, maybe not. Rick, let us know. The bee is just simply being. The bee is being. I'm being. You're being. So I thought that was beautiful because it reminds us like how we are a part, like a very delicate, perfect part to a giant puzzle in the cosmos. And yet we don't even have to be aware of that role and everything that depends on us and all that, the interdependence. We just be. And in being, we are serving that perfect puzzle piece. A metaphor that's coming to mind is the visual of a mobile. Mobile, you know those things that hang and each piece is keeping it in balance, and sometimes with the wind they turn, and like if you move it, it like counteracts the weight and then it comes back to normal. If you take off one piece, that thing falls, right? Have you ever seen them? They kind of like, they look like that. But when they're beautifully balanced, things are spinning. Intention is all there is. Intention is all there is. The work is just a reminder. Whoa. I feel like this book's gonna get a second read. Comment below if you've read it, if you want to read it, if you're gonna read it a second, third time. Okay, next mini chapter, rules. Okay, as soon as I read this, I was like, whoa, because I'm a pretty anti-rule person, but I like what he did here a lot. Because much like earlier in the book where he did these opposites can coexist feeling, it definitely came into rules mini chapter. So he says that rules are simple. A rule is any guiding principle or creative criterion. It might exist within an artist, within a genre, or the whole culture. Rules by their nature are limitations. And he says that there are some rules that are pretty like solid, like some in math and science, but he says that those are different from the ones we're looking at here because these are assumptions, not absolutes. They describe a goal or method for short-term or long-term results. They are there to be tested. They are there to be tested. They are not laws of nature. Rules direct, okay, so then he goes on to warn us that rules directs us to average behavior, because if like most people are following the rules, then that's average. But if we question the rules, if we work around the rules, maybe we even invent new, higher, cooler rules. I mean, he ends up concluding that he's not against rules. It's just about not stopping there. And he goes even deeper. And he says that the most possibly dangerous rules are the subconscious ones, the ones that you're not even aware that you're following. So my journaling prompt for you today, the activity I share with you is journal on first, the conscious rules. So which rules am I abiding to in my creative path? Maybe in your next project, maybe in your genre, maybe in your culture. So anyway, what rules have I been following? Which ones do I respect? Which ones do I not respect? And which ones have I broken? Which ones do I want to break? And then go into the unconscious. Which rules am I not yet aware of? And that seems so difficult because it's like, how can I know what I don't know? Well, shine the light and you shall find. What is there? He says, the goal is not to fit in. If anything, it's to amplify the differences, what doesn't fit, the special characteristics unique to how you see the world. Instead of sounding like others, value your own voice. Develop it and cherish it. It's a healthy practice to approach our work with as few accepted rules, starting points, and limitations as possible. Often the standards in our chosen medium are so ubiquitous, we take them for granted. They are invisible and unquestioned. This makes it nearly impossible to think outside the standard paradigm. The templates of the past can be an inspiration in the beginning phases, but it's helpful to think beyond what's been done before. The world isn't waiting for more of the same. These rules can serve or limit us. Be aware of any assumptions based on conventional wisdom. Rules obeyed unconsciously are far stronger than the ones set on purpose. And he says it's helpful to continually challenge your own process. So maybe you always create with a certain medium, or maybe you always write chapters in a certain way, develop characters in a certain way. Maybe you dance in a certain way and you learn in a certain way. What if like suddenly you learn blindfolded, or you go to a new class, or you learn in a new language, or you do things backwards? Just flip it, reverse it, avoid getting religious about it. Holding every rule as breakable is a healthy way to live as an artist. It loosens constraints that promote a predictable sameness in our working methods. And I'm a big fan of this. I mean, back in the year 2020, when something happened that we all know, I was definitely a rule non-observer because I questioned things and I listened to my intuition and I thought of the well-being of everyone in the way I understand it. So I know we've been tested as humanity, especially recently with being shamed into following rules. And that's usually a bad sign. Like if someone needs to shame you or use violence to enforce a rule, yikes, something's going on. At the end, he throws a curveball and he says that once you recognize the rules that you didn't even know were limiting you, you can either release them or you can even use them with more intention. So as much as I was saying I'm not into rules, I think there are some rules that once you use them with intention can be super powerful. For example, one of my rules is, I mean, it could also be a synonym for like a ritual, like he said earlier in the book. I like to sunbathe in the morning. I like my eye to touch sunlight before it touches like blue light from a screen. So that would be one of my self-imposed rules, and I'm doing it with intention. So yes. Any rule is worth testing, be it conscious or unconscious. Challenge your assumptions and methods. You might find a better way. And even if it's not better, you'll learn from the experience. All of these experiments are like free throws. You have nothing to lose. I really liked that sentence. You have nothing to lose. When I've worked with creatives before who are really holding tight to the perfection of the idea they have, so much that it stops them from acting consistently and in flow, there's been a saying that comes up, and we joke as writers and painters, like, it's just paper, it's just canvas. And I know some painters who have moved from canvas to paper actually to lower the stakes, which is what we talked about earlier. Okay, the last mini chapter, it was just 2 pages. It's called The Opposite is True. And it feels like it's a tack on to the rules mini chapter, because it says that the opposite, like, think of a rule as an imbalance. Darkness and light are only meaningful in relationship to each other. Without one, the other wouldn't exist. They are a matched dynamic system, like yin and yang. And I had talked about yin and yang earlier. I was on to him. And he says to examine your methods and consider what the opposite would be. Even if we don't choose to create on the other side, understanding this polarity can inform our choices. And so he's basically saying, like, if you never follow rules, try following rules. If you always work in the morning, work at night. If you always work in darker colors, work in lighter colors. Like, and not like he talks about a seesaw. And if you're always on one side of the seesaw, there's no reference point, there's no balance. And that's why he says, think of a rule as an imbalance. For every rule followed, examine the possibility that the opposite might be similarly interesting. Not necessarily better, just different. In the same way, you can try the opposite of, or the extreme of what's suggested in these pages, and it will likely be just as faithful. So I thought that was a cute, like, wink to himself and saying, like, even do the opposite of what I'm telling you. And that reminds us of how much freedom we have as conscious creatives, brave creatives. So now we're officially 1/4 through the book. I will see you tomorrow. The next mini chapter is called Listening. Please subscribe, share this video with a creative you love, encourage them to keep creating. Like it to let me know that this is the kind of stuff you'd like to see on the channel, and comment anything you were inspired about in this section. I'll remind you the names of the mini chapters. We had The Opposite is True, we have Rules, and Intention. Which was your favorite, or which one is going to be something that you're going to apply to your creative process differently, more deeply? Okay, creatives, let's keep creating. See you tomorrow.